North America's largest developer of dollar stores. Over 4,600 stores opened since 1993. For more information, visit our website at dollarstoreservices.com.
Starting out, my name is John LaFronz. I'm the general manager here at Dollar Store Services, and I've been here since 2001, so I've been here a very long time in this business here at Dollar Store Services. Good evening, welcome. Prior to my time here, I owned some of my own stores. I also did overseas buying, import buying for a national chain, and operated a chain of stores as well. So I've always been in the discount. Good evening, welcome. I've always been in the discount dollar store type industry, basically my whole life, and so I hope I have some good information to share with you. Um, Dollar Store Services, we are the largest retail developer in the United States of independently owned retail stores, and we've opened over 4,000 stores since 1993. We offer a comprehensive package that covers each and every aspect of opening and running a dollar store long term. We take all the guesswork out of it for you. We do several different types of stores. We do a dollar only store, which is like a Dollar Tree. We do a Dollar Plus store, which is very much like a Family Dollar or a Dollar General. And we have an exciting new concept we rolled out this year. It's a 1-2-3 store, and we'll talk a little bit more about that later in the evening. Our package of services consists of 7 key components. We provide you with financing assistance. We provide you with site location assistance. We help you negotiate the lease agreement. We actually do that for you in lockstep with you. Once the lease is completed, we do the complete setup of the store, including all the labor, the fixtures, the equipment, the merchandise, all the interior signage, and much, much more. We also provide comprehensive training for you prior to your store opening, and we do that over the internet. We have a set of online modules and also via telephone. So it's very, very intensive, and it can be done on your schedule at your convenience. As part of the store package that you buy, you become a member of our merchandise network, and that's extremely important because you're going to save 20 to 25% on merchandise that you order each and every time you order just by being part of our network. In other words, if you were an independent owner outside of our network going to that same supplier, you would pay 20 to 25% more for the same product that you're going to buy via our network. So it's a very significant benefit. If you were to buy, for example, $300,000 in merchandise next year, you would save $60,000 to $75,000 simply by being in our merchandise network. So it's extremely important. And then, of course, once your store is open, you get unparalleled long-term support, and we'll talk a little bit more about that as well. In terms of financing, I want to go back through these very quickly, if that's okay. In terms of financing, we have lenders that can address virtually every level of risk. They look at your credit scores. Within 72 hours of putting in your application, you will know what type of financing you will qualify for, what the terms are, and you can make the decision as to what type of for it. We also have available assistance with SBA lending, 401k, and IRA rollovers, where you can basically borrow money from yourself at very minimal expense. So there are a lot of different ways to finance your store. Right now, with the housing boom, a lot of people are choosing to use the home equity in their home to finance their store, which is, of course, about the least expensive money that you can find to use. So that's always a great option, too. So financing is the first step. Once you come on board, that's the first thing we do. We see what you can get funded for, unless you're going to self-fund your store, and you can make the decision as to whether or not you choose to go forward with that financing. If you do, the next step is for us to move you into site location. And in site location, we assign a team to work with you, a site location specialist and a leasing manager. Most of our leasing managers negotiate over 100 leases a year, and I think our youngest one has been with us for 7 years. So as you move into site location, we work with you. We identify every location that's available in the area that you have interest in the size range that you've determined you want to develop. Then we eliminate the locations that, for one reason or another, don't meet our basic criteria. They may be too close to a competitor. The asking rent may be so high that it might not be feasible to negotiate to an acceptable level for you. But then all the locations that we believe have merit and are worthy of you taking a look at, we upload into a proprietary website that we call EasyTrack. We developed it some years ago specifically for our own use and the use of our clients. You will have full access to that website, and on it you will see all the pertinent information all the pertinent information about every location that's under consideration. The population at 1, 3, and 5 miles, the demographic information, the ethnicity, the traffic going by the shopping center, the household income, and many, many more markers that are important to assessing the value of a location. You also will see a map of where all the competitors are located in and around that location. You'll also have a map and tenant roster of the shopping center itself, so you can see who the co-tenants are. And there are a lot of factors that go into determining what a good location is, and we educate you to all of that as we work through that process. As we identify locations that we like, and then locations that you like as well, we have you go visit them and do an assessment as to the condition of the inside of the location, because we're going to need that information to know what to negotiate for with the landlord. Is the space requiring new flooring? Does it need paint? Whatever those things might be, you'll get in there, you'll see those needs. We'll go ahead and negotiate for them for you. So as we negotiate on locations, you'll be in complete tune with what we're doing. We'll review every initial letter of intent for you. We'll renew the counter proposals that come back from the landlord and so forth. In our letters of intent, which is the first thing that we present to a prospective landlord when we see a location that you like, we negotiate over 17 key provisions, all of which are designed to provide you the maximum protection on the lease. And a few of these, I'll just give you a couple of examples. We negotiate for what's called a dark clause. And what that clause does for you is if you, for example, lease a location that is anchored by a Target or a Walmart or a grocery store, and you like that center and you choose to locate your store there because you know that big box store is going to create traffic for you. Well, one of these days maybe that store decides to close or relocate. Well, now all of a sudden the shopping center that you signed on for isn't the shopping center that you have. So with that dark clause, usually you have several options. You can have your rent suspended until the landlord repopulates that location. You can go on a reduced rent, or you can opt to move your store to another location, another shopping center. Those are some of the things that we would negotiate in terms of that dark clause. Another key clause is the making sure that the restrooms are ADA compliant, and that would be that they're handicapped accessible according to the Americans with Disabilities Act. If a restroom that you have in a space that you lease is not compliant with the ADA, you may be required to retrofit that bathroom, expanding the space, moving walls, providing new fixtures and the handrails and so forth. It can be a $10,000 or $12,000 cost to you just to get the bathroom ready. So we want to make sure that we've negotiated for the landlord to do that, not you. And again, there are many other provisions like that, and again, all designed to protect you. So once we've negotiated the lease, and typically we'll negotiate on several locations because we want to be able to sit back with you and compare and contrast one location against the other in terms of both the rent, the population, the traffic, all those other factors, and determine what might be the best option for you. The final decision, of course, is always going to be yours, but we will give you all the factors that you need to weigh to make that best decision for you, and we'll always give you our opinion. So now we're at a point where you make the decision, I love this location, the terms of the lease, the rent, the free rent, all the other things we've negotiated for you, you're happy with, so you execute the lease. So now we move your store over into, your store project, over into our operations department, and there we get to work interfacing with the landlord, scheduling your store, making sure that any work that the landlord has to do is done in a timely fashion so you can open as quickly as possible. You're also working with me at that point. I'm actually doing the store design for you, putting together the fixture plan. We review that, you approve it. At this point, you will have also reviewed and signed the purchase agreement, which is the agreement between our company and you to actually develop your store. Nothing goes hard until you signed your lease. At that point, we also initiate your training because we want to have you fully trained and do so as close as possible to when your store is going to be ready to open. When the landlord tells us and you that the store space is now ready, We schedule a build-out supervisor to go out to your store. We hire local labor, uh, and they're there to help set up the store or to set up the store. We typically start on a Monday morning. The fixtures arrive at about 7 a.m. Our crew is there to unload them and start setting them up. Monday afternoon, the merchandise starts arriving, and our crew again is receiving the merchandise and stocking it as it comes in the door. And this goes on throughout the week. It typically takes us 1 week to set up a store, and barring anything unforeseen, by Friday night or Saturday morning, you are ready to open your store. It's that fast. We do over 100 stores a year, so our crews, our build-out supervisors are very, very adept at getting their labor moving in the right direction very quickly. And again, during this time also, we've done your training, and your store is ready to open. We assign at that point, our trainer is going to stay in regular contact with you, and this is the long-term support that I spoke of earlier. The trainer is going to stay in contact with you via the phone virtually every day for the first 90 to 120 days that you're open. She'll be helping you write replacement orders as you sell out a product, helping you get ready for every season and holiday. We schedule that well in advance. We make sure your orders are placed for Halloween and Christmas and so on. So she'll help you do that, determine on a calendar when that merchandise should be ordered, when it should arrive in your store, when it should go out on display, when your seasonal signs should go up, because you want to pre-sell that each and every season. You want to let people know that if you're going to be looking for Christmas product in a month or so, this is where you want to come. We're going to have it. So those are all things that we do in that first period, that first 90 to 120 days. And of course, any operational questions that come up, your trainer's available to answer them as well. If it's something that she doesn't have direct knowledge of, I'm always available to you as well. And at the same time, I want to circle back to talk about the merchandise network for just a minute because it is very important. It's probably one of the most important components of our store packages. We have over 80 suppliers on our merchandise network to address virtually every type of product. Some of them are what we call general merchandise suppliers that supply products in many different categories. Others are more specialty suppliers that are best suited to provide one or two categories, like costume jewelry or greeting cards or sunglasses, whatever those things might be. And they're all the best at their particular product in terms of value, in terms of quality, in terms of price. Most of these suppliers I've worked with for over 30 years, so I have a great respect for them, and they value the business that our stores bring to them. They're always going to make sure you get the right price. In any merchandise program, and certainly in ours, there are three key components, and they are value, variety, and new merchandise. You have to have all of them to be successful. How do we provide value? Well, we provide value because we travel to each supplier at least once a month and hand select all the newest items that they have. We evaluate them in terms of not only the item itself, but the packaging and so forth. And then I negotiate the prices on those items. If I don't get to what I feel is an acceptable price for our stores, you will never see that item from us. If we can get to that, and I like the price and I like the product, those are items that we're going to present to you for your consideration for ordering for your store. It's very important. You can't evaluate merchandise looking at a catalog or looking at pictures online because you really have to touch and feel it. You have to see if the item does what it's supposed to do. Is the packaging right? Is it presented well so it looks like a value item? So we spend a lot of time doing that traveling to make sure that everything is right with the product that we're going to present to you for your consideration. The next component of a merchandise system is variety. Variety in your store is extremely important, having lots of different products for people to choose from. And how do we create that? Well, as I mentioned, we have over 80 suppliers scattered around the country. A few are general merchandise suppliers, most are specialty or niche suppliers. And because of our merchandise network and because of the fact that most of our suppliers offer freight concessions or very low freight terms, you can buy product to put in your store that other independent stores around you can simply not have because they can't afford to bring the products from that far away. They may not even know of these suppliers, quite honestly. So if you're in Chicago, for example, Uh, your competitors basically can only buy from suppliers in and around the greater Chicago area. Those are the people that they know. Those are the distances that they can afford to bring in product from. Whereas you can buy product not only from those suppliers, but from suppliers in Houston, from suppliers in California, from suppliers in New York and New Jersey. Um, so you're going to have incredible variety that all your competitors are going to be envious of. They're not going to be able to have that product in your store. The other piece of that is that in our business, in the dollar store business, most product is shipped in what's called master cartons. And in a master carton, there may be 72 or 144 pieces of one item. Um, it's a lot of an item, you know. So with our vendors, with our suppliers, because our stores do so much business with them, in most cases, they will ship what's called an inner pack. So instead of having to buy 72 pieces of a pizza cutter and looking at that pizza cutter for 3 or 4 months until they sell through, you can buy a dozen or 2 dozen in one of those inner packs. That does two things for you. It makes sure that the product is always turning. You know, you get your 12 pizza cutters in, you sell 6 or 8, you place a reorder. Now you're churning through product. The other thing that it does is it enables you to buy many different items, more different items, with that same money that you would have spent buying the 72 pizzas of the pizza cutter. Now you can buy 6 or 10 other items, all packed 12 or 24, and have many more items in your store, many more types of items for the same investment in your inventory. So it's a critical advantage, and nobody else can do that for you. So we've talked about value, we've talked about variety, new merchandise. This is probably, with the exception of price, the most critical component of a merchandise program. When your customers come into your store, they know why they're coming in. They're coming in to buy the items that are on their shopping list. They're coming in to buy maybe paper towels, toilet tissue, maybe shampoo, maybe some vanilla wafers or something like that. So they're coming in to buy 5 or 6, 7 items, and they're on their shopping list. Now they walk into your store, they find those items, they fulfill their needs, then they start to look around. And maybe, and this happens to me all the time, I'm a serious dollar store shopper. But they may walk around, maybe they see a set of 4 placemats that sells for $1. They look nice, you know, they look great on the kitchen table. They buy them and put them in their cart and off they go. And then they may see maybe one of those man-made chamois that you can use to clean your car on the weekend, and it's $1, great value. So pick that up in your cart it goes. And maybe they pick up a couple of toys for their children. So now all of a sudden, that $6 or $7 sale that they intended on making in your store now is $10 or $12 or $15, because now they're buying items that they didn't know they needed, but the value, the perceived value, when they look at those items, you know, they have that wow factor. Wow, this is only $1. This is only $1. So those items are going to go in their cart because they're buying items that they didn't know they needed, but the value is such that they made that buying decision. Now, when that customer comes back in a week or so, they probably need their paper products again. They probably need their shampoo or related items. They don't need the placemats. They didn't get used up. They don't need the chamois. They still have it. And the children still have their toys. But if you show them something new in home decor or in auto care or in the toy department or any other categories, now they're a customer again. And that is why the new goods, having a constant flow of new goods into your store is so critical, because it builds your average sale, it builds your profits, and it keeps your customers coming back because they're always going to want paper towels, they're always going to need toilet tissue, but you want them coming back because they don't know what they're going to find, but they know it's going to be an incredible value. That's how you build customer loyalty, that's how you build your average transaction, and that's how you grow your profits. So value, variety, new merchandise, all critical, all critical. And as I say, for the first 90 to 120 days, our trainer is going to be in your ear daily, helping you review those new items. We send emails out to you on new products and new supplier information virtually every week. So you're always going to be seeing hundreds of new items to choose from. Our trainer and later on our merchandise coordinator will be working with you to help you evaluate those items. We're going to be if you give us access, we're going to track your sales by category. So we'll see where your sales are coming from. You know, are you an incredibly good health and beauty aid store, or you're very strong in hardware, whatever those things might be, and we're going to help you maximize the sales in each of those categories by growing the sales with you through adding additional products. After that first 90 to 120 days, if you feel and we feel that you have your arms around the store, everything's going as it should, then we move your store to a long-term coordinator's desk, and that person continues to provide that same support. Slightly less intense basis. She'll call you several times a week, but she's always available to you anytime for any assistance that you might need. And we do that for as long as your store is in business. You get that daily or weekly follow-up. You get that new goods information on a very regular basis, and that is our program. As I meant to say at the outset, and I did not, you can start all of this with an application and a $500 deposit, which is fully refundable for any reason or for no reason at all. If you don't like the financing options that are available to you, ask for a refund, it goes right back to you. If we can't find a good location, one that you approve, we stop and your deposit goes back to you. If you, at any point in the process, decide, this isn't just for me, I think I'm going to open up a yogurt store. Whatever those things might be, that's fine. Your deposit goes right back to you, all up until the point when you're signing your lease, and at that point, that deposit becomes part of the purchase price of your store. So you never lose it. You either get it in a refund or you get it as part of the purchase price of your store when you're ready to go forward. And one last reminder before we leave the store program, there was an incentive for you attending the teleseminar tonight. If you do decide to go forward, when you open your store, you'll get $2,000 in free merchandise just because you took the time to call in tonight and listen to me. So I appreciate that. Now what I'd like to do is take about 5 minutes and just talk briefly about what's going on in our industry. The last year or two, this industry has always been very exciting, and I don't want to understate that. As I say, I've been at this for years. I love the buying and selling of merchandise. I love seeing customers excited when they come into a store. I love them seeing an item that I found, that I negotiated the price on, and built a great display in my store, and then the customers fall in love with it. Nothing better than that. It's just a merchandise high, I guess you might want to call it. But dollar stores have been growing, and their popularity has been growing right along with it for at least the last 20 years, and certainly more than that. In the last couple of years, though, things have happened that have made the dollar stores even more stronger than ever before. Back in 2008, when the economy kind of cratered, and I know we all remember that, many more people shopped dollar stores for the first time out of necessity. In fact, there was a survey done back then that said over 70% of the people polled shopped at dollar store at least twice a month. Pretty significant. And that was 12, 13 years ago. And those customers never left because what they found was they could buy a lot of the products that they use on a regular basis and that they need, that they were paying X amount of dollars for in the grocery store, much less expensively in a dollar store. And so they stayed as customers. Great thing. In the last year or so during the pandemic, a lot of things came into play that further grew the popularity and the necessity of shopping in a dollar store. When a lot of the traditional retailers, and I know we've all experienced this last year, couldn't keep paper products in the store, didn't have the masks and the sanitizer and the health items, the cleaners and so forth that people needed and wanted, dollar stores had them. Not only did they have them, but they had them at much lower prices than people are accustomed to paying in the grocery store. So they found, people that hadn't found dollar stores did, and then they stayed. The pandemic is hopefully largely behind us, but those customers are still here. Again, for the same reasons. They found value, they found convenience, and so they shop their dollar stores on a more regular basis than ever before. There was a survey that was done about 3-4 months ago, and it was of grocery store shoppers. And they asked, among a lot of other questions, they asked, what is the most important thing when you shop? And the overwhelming response was price and convenience. They wanted to be able to get in their store, they wanted to get out. They wanted to have a good feeling about the value that they were getting. They were paying a fair price. And the second question that intrigued me was they said, do you believe that over the last year you have been price gouged by your grocery store? And over 77% said yes. They really felt that they were taken advantage of price-wise. Whether it was intentional or it was because of cost increases, hard to say. But that was the conception that they had of their experience at shopping at a grocery store. So, what fuels people coming to the dollar stores more and more than ever before? Convenience. You know, the average shopping trip at a dollar store, I think, is about 20 minutes versus 45 minutes at a grocery store. People like to come in, do the shopping, and get out. And they don't want to walk a mile across a Walmart parking lot to get to their store. They want to be able to park out front, get in, do their shopping, save money, and get out. So convenience. And of course, they're going to find value because the dollar stores are going to be the lowest priced retailer on virtually every item that they carry. Survey done a couple of years ago showed that of items that are carried in a dollar store and in Walmart and in a Target, I think was the other business that they surveyed, over 70% of the items that were common to all three retailers, dollar stores were the lowest priced on over 70% of those items. Pretty significant, and people see that. So convenience, price, drove more and more people to the dollar stores, and they stayed. And during the pandemic, you know, fortunately, our stores were deemed essential. They did not have to close like unfortunately many other retailers did. So we continued to grow our business. We continued to grow our customer base. And again, those people have stayed with the dollar store industry for the most part. Dollar General for the second quarter of last year, which was at the height of the pandemic, they had the largest sales increase in the history of their company, over 22%. And dollar stores across the board experienced those same types of increases. It was just a phenomenal year. So those are things that happen, and those are things that are fueling the growth in dollar stores. CNN had a report about 3 weeks ago, and they said for the year 2021, or the year we're in, there will be more dollar stores developed than all other types of retail stores combined, and they couldn't even come up with a number for 2022 because the demand for these stores is so incredibly high. So it just bodes well. And because unfortunately a lot of businesses did have to close during the pandemic, there are many great locations available, and landlords want good quality tenants like dollar store owners because they know should we ever experience anything like that again, the dollar stores can stay open and continue to pay rent. Many other retailers cannot. So kind of a perfect storm. And of course, right now, if you're thinking about getting into this business, there's still a great opportunity to get your store open to take advantage of the fall and Christmas holidays. But, you know, the sooner you start, the better advantages you'll be able to take advantage of. We can get your store open in 30 to 45 days if everything kind of aligns as often it does. And that'll put you in a great position. There's never a bad time to open a dollar store. As I've said, it's an incredible business, but if you have the opportunity to open for the last quarter, it's even a little bit more advantageous because people are out shopping, and many more people are going to see your store in the shortest period of time. So it enables you to get up off the ground that much more quickly. So that's kind of what's happening in our industry. I mentioned earlier, you know, we developed different types of stores. The most exciting thing we have going on right now, of all the exciting things we have going on, is our $1, $2, $3 store, and that it's a great concept. It kind of grew out of the dollar-only store, which is so powerful because it has that wow factor where somebody walks into your store and says, "Gee, everything here is $1," you know, and they don't agonize over it. Gee, should this be 88 cents, or you know, everything's $1. It's simple buying decisions are made. And that wow factor is very powerful. In the 1, 2, 3 store, you have that same dynamic going on. About half the store, 60% of the store is going to be $1 items, all the best of the $1 items. So you're going to have that power. And then the balance of the store consists of items that sell for $2 and $3. So when your customer sees your store, they know exactly what you're about. They know it's not one of these dollar stores where they say, "Oh, we're a dollar store," and you walk in and everything's $2.99 and $3.99, and they feel like they're being taken advantage of. Very, very specific: $1, $2, $3, great values in every price category, and The great thing about the 123 is that it's basically competition proof. There's nothing like it in virtually any market that you might be in. You may have some Family Dollars, which are multi-price stores, some Dollar Generals, which are the same. Dollar Tree is a dollar-only store, and they're struggling to hold that price point, I know, because they have a lot of layers of management expenses that an independent does not have. But most importantly, the 123 store is like nothing else. It really sets you apart and gives you a great competitive advantage. So with that all being said, as I mentioned earlier, when you're ready to go forward, if you decide to do so, you can do an application and a deposit with your sales representative. You'll know within 48 to 72 hours what your financing potential is, what the terms are, how much you can qualify for, and you may make the decision to go forward, and you may decide to wait. So with all that being said, what I'd like to do, and I hate that phrase, by the way, but I use it all the time, and I apologize. With that said, what I'd like to do now is kind of open it up to questions, and please feel free to unmute your phone if you have a question. I know that there will be some talk over as a number of us try to get our questions out, so I would ask just everybody to be courteous to everyone else. And when you're done with your question, you've gotten it answered, please mute your phone again to keep the background noise to a minimum. And when you ask your question again, just please identify yourself with your first name and where you're from, if you would. And let's open the gates. I'm ready for questions.
Tyreek here in Atlanta, Georgia.
How are you, sir?
I'm all right.
What can I do for you this evening?
Okay, so about the funding,
Yes.
would that loan include working capital to? So let's say everything with a $123 store is it's like $100,000. Just say $100,000.
Okay.
Will that include in the loan? Will it include an excess of that money so I can cover personal expenses, so I can just commit myself fully to managing that $123 location?
Yes. In fact, one thing I did want to mention: our program starts for the dollar-only store at $79,900. For the 123, starts at $84,900. But good question. And yes, most often the loans will include an amount of working capital. What we do, and what was your first name again? I'm very sorry.
Say it again. Oh, Tyreek.
Tyreek. Thank you. I'm sorry. What happens, Tyreek, is once we know once you know that your loan is approved and how much, what we do is we do a worksheet for you, and what it does is it breaks down how much the store packages. Then we estimate an amount of working capital that you're going to need, and then we estimate funds that you'll need for the first month's rent and 1 month's security. Typically, is what a landlord's going to want, and then some other basic amounts. An amount set aside for your business licenses and any permits and things like that. So you'll have a total picture of what the project cost is going to be, and we're going to make sure that you have enough funds through your loan to reach that amount before we ever start in real estate. We want to make sure that you're in the best position possible financially to move forward.
I got another question real quick.
Yes, go ahead.
So, okay, of course, what I want to do is cover my personal expenses, correct? That's what I was just talking about a minute ago.
Sure.
So, would there be enough funding available to cover workers, employees?
Often, yes. It kind of depends on your credit profile and what you qualify for. But once we know that number that you've qualified for, we can always work backwards to the store size to make sure there are enough excess funds to do what you're describing that you want to do or need to do. So yes, most often that can happen.
Okay, great. That makes sense.
Yeah, and we always want to make sure that, again, that you're in the best position financially before you start. We don't want you to be trying to live out of the cash register from day one. It's not a good scenario. We want to make sure that you're positioned.
Nah,
and keep in mind,
that's never. I don't think that's ever a good scenario.
No, not at all. And keep in mind too that when we negotiate the leases, we're going to negotiate for 2, 3, 4 months of free rent. So that enables you to get your store off the ground with the least amount of expense in the first number of months, which is a nice advantage too. And these stores, Tyreek, do establish themselves pretty quickly. It's not like a lot of businesses where people have to first they have to see you, then they have to understand what your business is about. What does this person do? And then they have to have a need for your product. Dollar stores check all those boxes, you know. As long as your location's good, they see you, they know exactly what your business is, and they need your product today. So
Okay.
okay. Tyreek,
That
thank you
answers
so
all my
much.
questions.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
I
Yes,
have a question.
yes, go ahead, ma'am. Who is this?
Hi, this is Ava from Houston.
Good evening. Go ahead.
Hi, how are you? Yes. You had mentioned that there's new funding options. You mentioned the SBA funding.
Yes.
Is that something that you all help secure? Or is it something that we have to secure on our own?
Basically, with SBA, they work through local banks. So you would have to visit your bank, find out what they need in the application process. We can most often help you complete that. Often they need a business plan, which we can provide to you at no charge. Often, in conjunction with that business plan, they need a location. And it may not be the location that you ultimately put your store in, but we need a location to
Okay.
base the business plan on. So we find
Okay.
that location for you, we create the business plan based on that, and use that to support your application to SBA.
Okay, because I had started the process and they told me they only had one lender. So is it now more lenders with the SBA, or is it just the SBA separate and then you have one lender, or do you have multiple lenders?
Usually there's any number of banks in a market. You're in Houston, which is obviously a big market. I would
Right.
venture to guess there are any number of banks that can do an SBA loan. And kind of what the SBA is they kind of underwrite the loan so that it makes it more attractive for the bank to do the lending. The bank ultimately is doing the lending. It's not SBA. SBA is kind of facilitating the ability of the bank to do that loan. Is kind of
Okay.
how.
And so you have to pay the $500 to even get that process started with the business plan that you provide for free.
Yes.
You have to pay the deposit up front.
Yes.
Okay. And then also okay.
Oh, go ahead.
All right, that sounds fine. Yes, I had one more other question. You had mentioned also that like if you're in the shopping center with like a large retailer and they move out of that location, that you can negotiate. When you first negotiate, you're going to negotiate that when you first start regarding reduced rent or the possibility to move your location to a different, location that's more thriving. And
Yeah.
so when you move or have to move, let's say that's the choice that you choose,
Mm-hmm.
does your company help with the move, or you have to move it yourself? Like you have to hire people to move and set it
No,
up somewhere else
no,
yourself?
we would assist you in doing that. Typically, we've done it a number of times in the past, and typically what we do is we figure out what our cost is for labor and whatever that might be, and then that we have to charge you something, but that would be the something.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I wanted to know more about the business plan. So we'll talk. I'll talk. I guess send you like an email separately to discuss further. Because I already had spoke with someone. I'm not sure if you're the same person. What was your name again? Because I forgot the name of the person I was doing.
My name's John LaFronz, and if you want to email me tomorrow, if you don't know who your rep is, I can look it up for you.
I just know it starts with a B. It's kind of hard to pronounce his last name.
It's
He's in Vegas.
Is it Bonfiglio?
Yes, that's
It's the
him.
hardest name we have. So, yeah, it would be David Bonfiglio. And what's your last name? And I can have him reach out to you tomorrow.
Sure, Cooper. See, I already had started the process, but he told me he only had one lender, and they didn't have any SBA details back then, so that's why I kind of just like put it on hold.
You know, I'll talk to him in the morning and have him reach out to you. You can certainly call or email him, but I'll let him know that we spoke.
Okay.
That's the information that you need. So.
Okay. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate the information.
Thank you, and thank you for taking the time this evening. Much appreciated.
Oh, no problem.
Thank you. Yes,
I'm Faith from Florida.
Yeah. Question.
Yes, go ahead, sir.
I'm Faith from Florida. And
Okay.
My question is, what is the cost of the largest your largest store that will yield the largest profit?
Well, it's a good question. Every store is going to yield a profit, and if money is no object, certainly, we do stores up to 30,000 square feet. I mean, a good size to target initially is a 5,000 square foot store thereabouts. That runs about $207,000. But again, every store size. And what was your name, ma'am? I'm sorry.
Faith from Florida.
Faith. Every
Faith,
store.
F-A-Y-E.
Like Faith, Hope, and Charity kind of thing.
F-A-Y-E.
No, what I was going to say is that every store size can work well in the right environment. You know, we spend obviously a lot of time and energy to find that right location, whether it's 1,000 square feet or 10,000 square feet, to make sure you're separated from competition. You've got a unique population and customer base, and the rent factors are correct, and so on. There really is no optimal size. It's really, you know, what location we can easily find that is going to be most successful for you in whatever store size you choose.
I got a
Okay,
question.
and what's the most you can make from a dollar store?
Well, varies quite a bit based on any number of factors: population, what your rent turns out to be, and a number of other factors. But typically, we look for a location where you can generate around $200 a square foot annually in gross sales. Your average margin on product is going to be about 45% or 45 cents on every dollar. And then you simply multiply that by the store size. But what we do is once you come into the program and we know what size store you can develop based on your funding, that's what we start to look for, of course. And as we identify locations that we believe are worthy and have merit, and you do as well, when we get to the final set of numbers, what the rent's going to be, how much free rent there is, at that point we have a real location with real numbers attached to it, the population, the traffic, the co-tenants, and so on. Before you ever sign a lease, I can sit down and I can go through the potential for that store with you, and we'll do like an estimated P&L. So before you ever make a buying decision, or a leasing decision rather, we want to make sure that you've got the best information. And it's certainly not a guarantee, but it can be a pretty good indicator of what that store space can develop for you.
Hi, I'm
Thank you.
Prashant.
Thank you.
Hi,
Yes.
I'm Prashant from
Oh,
Florida.
wait. Somebody's already speaking. Go ahead, sir.
Hi, I'm Prashant from Florida.
Hassan, okay.
Prashant.
Got it. Okay. Go ahead,
Okay,
sir.
so I have three questions. First is, what are the licenses we need? For example, EBT. Can we put lottery there? And what are the other licenses we need?
Okay.
And my second question is,
Okay.
what happens to the products which gets expired?
Okay. Two good questions. First question is, in terms of licenses, basically all you're going to need is a business license for your store. In certain areas, you may be required to have a health permit, even if you're just selling packaged food. It varies by area, so you might be required to have that. And then in terms of other items that you might want to add, in certain markets, you can add lottery, and there's an application process for that. It varies by state. You can also choose to add other items like beer and wine if your lease permits that. In that case, you need a permit for that as well. But to basically open your store, it's going to be just your business license and perhaps, perhaps a health permit, and that would be it. And we can help you with those other things. You know, certain store owners in certain areas may choose to add the ability to take the EBT cards of food stamps, for example, which is a great advantage. You have to be open before you can apply for that, but our trainer can help you walk through that process. And that's a nice advantage in a lot of markets as well. The second part of your question was what happens to expired goods? And the answer is once you've bought those items, they are yours. So it's very important that you rotate your stock always, and you watch those expiration dates. Now, most products that you're going to carry in your store have very long shelf dates, 3 months, 6 months, 9 months. But again, and our suppliers will never ship you anything that has an out date of less than 90 days. It's a requirement that we have with them. And again, keep in mind you're buying in very small quantities. So you should be able to turn that product very easily, but it is important to rotate your product. Make sure that when you get a new shipment of chocolate chip cookies in, that the new product goes in the back and the existing product goes in the front. So that's the first package that sells. Very important. Same thing with health and beauty aids. The shelf lives are very long, but you do have to pay attention to them, certainly.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much for your questions. Yes, next question. I think another gentleman had a question a minute ago. Let me share something for just a minute here. One thing I didn't touch on earlier was the add-on revenue generating programs that you can choose to add to your store. And there's any number of them. As we're not a franchise, keep in mind there are no fees or royalties ever, nor do we dictate to you what you can and can't do within your store, which is a very nice advantage as well. And there are any number of programs that you can choose to add to your store to increase your sales and your profits. Things such as something as simple as adding Coke and Pepsi coolers to sell that product, and we can help you source that item. Applying for the ability to take the EBT cards, the food stamp cards, once you're open, very important in a lot of areas, and we walk you through that process as well. And to get into that business, you really only have to have a 1 or 2 door cooler, and we find local suppliers for you. You need to carry a couple of lunch meat items, a couple of dairy items, and a couple of bread items, and then you qualify to take those food stamps, which enables those customers to shop virtually every item in your store. It's a big, big advantage. A lot of stores add rack programs such as Little Debbie or Frito-Lay, things like that. And the local reps come in and service those racks each and every week. We also have a program where you can add key duplication, making keys. If you've been to Home Depot or Lowe's lately, it costs about $4 to $5 to make a key. Those key blanks cost 50 cents. 50 cents. So you can sell those keys at $1.50 or 2 for $3. Be the cheapest person in town and make a 3-time markup on just that one item alone. It takes up 2 square feet on top of your counter. That's an incredible revenue and profit generator. We even have some stores that have added the ability to accept mail delivery. They put a bank or two of mailboxes in their store. And that is a great advantage because in today's world, many people are concerned about the theft of their mail. They're concerned about identity theft. So they can have mail go directly to your store, put it in the box. They have a key. The beauty for you is that A, you get the rental on the mailboxes, and B, that customer is going to be in your store 3 or 4 times a week picking up their mail, and that gives you that many more opportunities to make a customer out of that person each time they come in. So that's just a number of examples. We also have custom printing that's available where people can print banners or gift wrap in your store while they wait. It takes a matter of minutes, and the profit potential is in the range of 400% to 500%. It's just incredible. So many programs like that, and we help you pick and choose what might be the best for your store. You don't have to add them initially. You can always add them later. But just things that we do to help you grow your store after you're open. Who has another question?
My name is Julia.
Julia?
I'm
and where are
sorry.
you from, Julia?
I'm from Dallas, Texas.
Well, hi there.
And the question I have is, what are the terms on the loans and the percentage interest rates?
Good question, and it's the hardest one for me to answer because it does vary by the type of loan that you qualify for and your credit profile. And so the best way to identify what those numbers are going to look like for you is to get that application in, and you'll know within, as I say, 48 to 72 hours what that loan program can look like for you. It varies so much because everybody's credit profile is so different, Julia, that whatever I tell you is probably going to be wrong for you. So I always yield to the experts with regards to that.
Okay, hi, my
thank
name is
you.
Andrew.
You're welcome. Thank you. Yes, sir. What was your question?
I have a question pertaining to financing just as well.
Yes.
If you have a poor credit and you say, let's say you don't qualify, do you have any kind of program to assist persons instead of acquiring a store?
Yes. What was your name, sir?
And I have a second part of the question is, would you also require any funds upfront as well? Capital. How much capital you think you would need to inject?
Okay, two good questions. First question with regards to if your credit has some blemishes on it, and lots of people's do, mine included. And you never know what they are until you actually go to do something. Say, hey, here's something that popped up from 5 years ago. So, no, it's very, very common. So a number of our lenders have free or very inexpensive credit repair. So if there's an item or two that needs to be removed from your credit, they can most often assist you in doing that. And it takes a period of about 30 to 60 days for that item to fall off. And then you may be in a position to qualify for funding. Second part of your question was how much money do you need to bring to the table, so to speak? And sometimes none at all. You know, it really becomes a question of how much funding you qualify for and what size store you want to do. You know, you may find that you want to do a 2,000 square foot store and you only qualify for enough to do 1,000 or 1,500. In that instance, you would have to come up with the difference. But most often, we're able to secure, as I mentioned earlier, funding including enough working capital so that you may not have to come out of pocket with anything at all. And very often that's the situation. We've even had people from time to time that, going back to that same example, they qualify for 1,000 square foot store, and they want to do 1,500 square feet. And so they may take a look and say, well, gee, I've got some existing credit cards. Maybe I can access a few of those, come up with another $5,000-$6,000, and I can get to that next size store. So there's lots of ways to get there, and we help you investigate all of them. Does that kind of answer your question?
Thank you. Yes, it does. Thank you.
Yes, go ahead, sir. Or ma'am.
This is Julia McDuff again in
Yes.
Dallas. What type of software do you guys use for bookkeeping and things like that, and inventory?
Okay, good question. Most of the store owners use QuickBooks. It's the least expensive and the easiest to use. And we, in training, we have you set up a set of spreadsheets to track a number of things, including your daily, weekly, monthly sales and your inbound shipments to keep track of your average cost of goods, which is very important. And it's very easy to move those numbers to QuickBooks so that it's always on your computer. That's really the best way, and that's what most of our stores do.
Yeah.
Okay, next question.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you, Julia.
Hello, my name is Terry from Louisiana.
Okay.
And I have a question about, because I was a little late getting here. Who owns the property that the store is located on?
Normally, we would be looking for a location for you to lease. So the shopping center owner or whatever would actually own the property, and you would do a lease agreement with them.
Okay. So they don't have like a standalone store, you know, just out here, stuck out here, store by itself?
Oh, yeah. Sometimes we find that type of location as well. But again, it would still normally be a lease from the landlord.
Okay. Another question is, what is about the yearly average shrinkage per store on just the average, on the shrink side after inventory?
Okay, good question. Normally, in a dollar store, Unlike a lot of other retail environments that you might be familiar with, dollar store, the product cost is very low, so by default, the shrinkage number is going to be low. I would look for something typically less than 3%, generally between 1.5 and 2, but certainly if your shrinkage exceeds 3%, then you've got more of an internal theft issue than normal
Yeah.
damage. And it's a good question. We
Okay.
spent a lot of time in training talking about ways and methods to eliminate that internal loss, that internal theft. So I know in my experience operating my own stores for years, the customers could never really hurt me. It was a bad employee that could hurt me. So we have a lot of items that we talk about that help you control those activities in the store. So.
Okay.
Yeah, of course.
Good questions. Thank you. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Next question.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am. Who is this?
This is Ava again from Houston.
Oh, okay. Go ahead.
Yes. As far as I know that you've opened up several stores within this franchise opportunity program, and I know you can't say like personally a name and that type of thing, but just based on your professional experiences and just based on you working with several different people that have opened up stores, what has been, would you say, like as far as profit-wise, what has been like the highest profits you've seen in this business since you've been working and setting up stores for different independent owners?
Okay, good question. And as you say, it does vary a little bit based on a number of factors. But I would certainly look for a store owner to generate 15%, 20% at the outside of gross sales as their profits. And it can vary a little bit based on a number of factors. And one of the big ones is the attention to detail that the owner pays to their business. But somewhere in that range. And as I said earlier, I don't know if you caught it or not, but once we're finalizing, once we're finalizing a lease agreement, we know as much as we could possibly know about that particular location. I can help you work through a set of numbers so that we can evaluate what that store space could generate for you. And that's really the most important part of the exercise, is to make sure that, with the rent factor that you're going to have in your lease agreement, and with the potential for sales in the center and the distance from competition, we can get pretty close to a fine point on what that store space can generate for you. And that's the key to making that decision, is to move forward or not.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you again very much. Next question.
Okay,
Yes.
Terry again.
Hi.
Yes, Carrie, go ahead.
All right, Terry again from Louisiana.
Yeah.
My question was, what percent of sale goes to the payroll? What's the payroll percentage like?
Okay, good question. We normally like to see payroll not exceed 8% of your gross sales. That's
Okay.
always what we target. And often can be less. It's a little more variable now, because some of the wage rates in some states are bouncing up a little bit higher, but that's going to find a level again, because it always does. But about 8% is traditionally what it's always been, Terry, plus or minus a little bit. And the other factor in there is and that's assuming a store is going to be primarily staffed with paid employees. If you're an independent owner and this is going to be your primary job, in a 1,000 square foot store, just to use an example, you need about 74, 75 work hours a week to adequately staff that store. Now, if I'm the owner and I work 40 of those hours or 45 of those hours, now I'm only paying for 25 or 30 hours of paid employees, and I'm keeping all that additional profit for myself. I'm going to pay myself out of the bottom line. So there's a lot of ways to I guess carve the watermelon, so to speak. So, but In general rule, about
Okay.
8% of sales.
All righty.
Good question. Very good question. Yes, next question.
Yes, hi.
Go ahead. Who's this?
Hi, my name is Lori Brown. I'm calling from Atlanta.
One of my favorite cities. Go ahead, Lori.
Thank you. And I wanted to know, I have two questions, and you may not be able to answer them. But the first one is on the loan amount that we get qualified for, how long of a term is that loan? And then my second question would be, what's an average monthly amount that we would be paying back on that particular loan?
Okay. Two good questions and two hard questions to answer.
I figured that.
You were waiting for me. No, with a number of lenders, the term is about 7 years.
Okay.
Other lenders, it does vary. It can be a little bit shorter, a little bit longer. The average payment, that's a tougher question to answer because obviously it depends on how much you borrow first, and then what the term is, how long you have to pay it back. So that's a harder question to answer. But generally, about 7 years would be a term that you could expect to see.
Okay.
Yeah, the other
Okay,
question
thank you.
we need to know way more before we can answer that one. Well, thank you. Great question, Lori. I appreciate it.
Okay, thank you.
Next question. Okay, if no one has any other questions, if you do, I'm happy to answer them. Don't be shy. And if not, yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I want to know if you ever been under bankruptcy. I'm trying to see how long do you have to wait before you even open a store.
Okay, for the bankruptcy to go away.
Yes.
The rules keep changing a little bit. It used to be 10 years, then it was 7. Then a couple of years ago it was 5, because the credit bureaus keep changing, and they're the ones that make those rules. I think most recently, I want to say it was 7 years, but don't hold me to that. Because it depends on a number of factors. Is it a medical bankruptcy? Because that's different yet again. So the best thing to do is to, if you have a question, let's get you into finance, and I say we'll know in a number of hours what that looks like for you. Yeah, it's a hard question to answer because, like I say, number one, the amount of time it takes for that to fall off is a moving target, it seems. And then the type of bankruptcy plays into it also.
Oh, okay.
You bet. Yes, next question. Hello?
Hello?
Yes, did you have a question, sir?
Yes, sir. What was your name again? I'm sorry?
My name is John LaFronz, and your name?
John LaFronz. My name is Guillermo. I'm actually in Guillermo Alvarado, and I'm in California, Los Angeles. I had a question. I wanted to see about, they already asked that question about the bankruptcy. That's I wanted to see if somebody with a bankruptcy can qualify for a loan. But you said it depends on the type of bankruptcy, you said?
Yeah, to an extent that plays into it. Medical bankruptcies are different than any other bankruptcy. Yeah, they view them less critically, I guess you could say, than others, because a lot of people fall into that. You have a car accident, you have medical bills, they're astronomical. It was nothing that you did wrong. So they kind of weigh that differently. It's kind of interesting. If I went out and bought a boat and sunk it, and they said I went through bankruptcy, it's different. If a guy drove it,
but you have to get you have to get the bankruptcy removed from your credit report to get approved, pretty much.
Most often, yes. Most often, yes.
Most often, okay. That's what I wanted to know. Oh, okay. Okay, thank you.
Good questions, though. Thank you very much. Next question.
Okay, this is Terry again. I have a question pertaining to training. Will there be specialists, say like an office manager, a stocking manager, or something like that to train initially your employees, or will the manager be trained and he have to train everybody else?
That's exactly how it works. We train you. because those other people may change over time. Your office manager may come or go. So we want you to
Right.
understand. We want you to know all of that. So yeah, we would train you. And keep in mind, because we're doing the training online, a good portion of it, you're going to have access to that. So if 6 months from now you hired a new cashier or a new front end manager, whatever that might be, you're going to have all those training materials still available to you, and you can walk through them with that new employee, or the portions of them that you want to review with them. You'll have them available to you. Good question. Next question?
Yeah, hi. This is Andrew again from Florida. Can
Yes, go
you
ahead.
hear me now?
Yes, go ahead. I'm sorry. Yeah, I could
Okay.
not work.
So what I wanted to know is you have come across any stores that actually failed or didn't make it, and from those stores, what were the reasons why they didn't make it?
Okay, very good question. And yes, unfortunately, that does happen from time to time. In my experience, it usually boils down to just a handful of reasons. One, despite our best efforts, sometimes we'll have an individual store owner that chooses a location that we just can't endorse. And I'll give you an example. Some years ago, I had a client we were working with, and he was going to go into a grocery-anchored center, and there were 2 or 3 spaces available. One was literally right next to the grocery store. Then there's a second one that was all the way at the other end of the center, and the rent was, I think, 10 or 15 cents a foot less. But the location had no other stores around it. There's some vacant stores on either side, and it was going to get zero benefit from the grocery store. But this client was dead set on renting that because he wanted to not pay the extra 15 cents. So, it's what my dad used to say, something about leading a horse to water but not being able to force him to drink, like that. So, sometimes a client or an owner may just make a bad decision. And I'll tell you this, many years ago, I started, when I was first faced with that, working here, what I started to do was, when I had a situation like that, I would create I talked to the owner first, obviously, and let him know of the concerns that we had. Maybe the rent's too high, maybe the location is not visible from the street, or there's a competitor way too close. Whatever those things are, I would talk through those things with the client, with the prospective owner, and if they were still dead set on moving forward with that location, what I would do is draft a letter that I call a site exception letter. And basically what it does is it formalizes for the client, these are the reasons. We know you like this location, and maybe there's things about this location that we don't know or we can't see, but based on what we can see, we can't endorse it because of, and maybe it's whatever those reasons are. Competitor's too close. It's in a bad position in the center. The rent is way too high. And we send that letter. I send that letter to the client, and I ask them to read it and to sign it and send it back to me, because sometimes seeing something in print that you can hold in your hand makes you stop and think for a minute or two. So we try to do everything we can to. I'd rather not build a store than build a store where I know the client's not going to be successful. There's nobody wins there. So I'd rather keep looking for another location. So to get back to your question, sometimes what happens is, despite everybody's best efforts, a client just chooses a poor location. And inside location, I will say this, it's kind of a process of education. As you look at more locations and we talk about the pluses and minuses of each with your leasing team, you start to learn more. If you've never leased a commercial location before, it's all new to people. So over the period of time, you will see more and more things that you never really thought about before in terms of what constitutes a good or a poor location. And a lot of times what we see is that a location that you may turn... I'm sorry? So a lot of times what may happen is early in the process you may see a location and say, I don't like that. And then 3 or 4 weeks in you may say, now based on what I now know, I want to go back and look at that location again. So that happens. So sometimes one of the reasons could be that a poor location is chosen. The other thing that can happen is that some people often don't really have the mindset to operate a business. And our business is a very simple business to run and own. And we spend a lot of time in the training aspect to make sure you're best positioned. If you have retail experience, we spend more time talking about the operations and the merchandise. If you have business experience, never owned a retail store, then we flip the training. We spend more focus on the areas that are not as a big part of your experience. So, but I always tell people, if owning a store, owning a business is like having a job. You have to show up every day. You have to put the energy and effort into it, and you will be rewarded. But if your expectation is, and every once in a while we'll see somebody like this, if your expectation is that you're going to come in on Friday afternoon and put all the money in a shoebox and take it to the bank, not the business for you. You got to work it. You got to pay attention to it. You don't have to live there, but you got to pay attention to your business and do the things you need to do. Track your average sales, track your average cost of goods, track your average transaction, all those things. And it's all very simple, but it requires a degree of discipline. So sometimes we may encounter a person that, for whatever reason, just doesn't have that, or their expectations are not realistic, and they find the business is not for them. So those are, quite honestly, the primary reasons where somebody does not do well. I guess the other reason would be that sometimes we'll have an individual that doesn't really stay within the program. And by that I mean, we've got a network of suppliers that I mentioned earlier. They're always going to be the best cost provider of product. But sometimes I've seen individuals over the years that may, instead of taking the time to write a balanced order with a supplier and place that order and wait 4 or 5 days for it to come in, they decide, well, I just don't have the time for that, so I'm going to go to some local warehouse jobber over here in my community, and I'll go pick up the items I need to get through the weekend. And they do that. But what happens is now they're paying 10 or 15 or 20 cents too much for those items, and that sometimes can be their profit. So it's not a good economical decision to make, and yet people sometimes choose to do that. I know, and from time to time you may have a local supplier that's got a great buy on an item. Sure, take advantage of it. You're not required to buy from anybody. It's your store. We're not a franchise. You can do whatever you choose, but choose wisely. And so sometimes, unfortunately, that does not happen. But if a store struggles, it's typically going to be one of the reasons, one of those three. So I apologize for being so long-winded, but I want to kind of give you the why, not just the what. So
I have one more. This is Julia from Dallas again.
All right, Julia, one more question. I'm only kidding. I'm only kidding.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Security, registers, utilities, network. Is that included in the leasing, or how is that?
Okay.
How does that work?
Good question. Cash registers, of course, are included. We don't provide a security system like a camera system, but we do have a relationship with a company that can provide it to you very inexpensively if you choose to do that. Not everybody does. We always include security mirrors in the store so that they're positioned strategically so whoever's at the checkout can kind of see what's going on in the aisles and so forth. Internet access, you have to do that locally because the providers are all different, so that's not part of your package.
Okay, and the utilities, that's something that we would pay on our own.
Yeah, exactly, because again, they vary so much. So yeah, that's an expense that you would have, and in your business model, you account for that expense.
Okay.
Good questions.
Hi, this is Prashant from Florida.
Yeah.
So when I think you will provide the POS system, right?
The what? I'm sorry?
You will provide the point of sale system?
Yes, we use electronic cash registers.
So how much is the transaction fee? Like normally it's like you charge 2.5% for credit cards?
Varies a little bit. The credit card processing, debit card processing, there's usually a percentage and then there's a transaction fee as well. and it will vary by bank. We have one provider that is generally pretty cost effective across the country, but I'm always going to suggest to you that when you get to that point, that you shop those rates at your local banks because they're all going to be very competitive because they want all your business. You know, if you're going to have your business accounts with Chase Bank, the first question they're going to ask is who's doing your card processing, and you'll ask them for a bid, and then you can sit back and compare the different providers and make the best decision for you. It doesn't vary a lot, but it does vary. So you want to make sure that you get the best deal for you.
So I had a gas station, so I had ATM, I had a cryptocurrency type ATM. They used to pay me like every month. So is it all allowed in dollar stores?
Absolutely, absolutely. You know, and some of our stores do that. They take the ATM. You know, there's a lot of different ways to do it, as you know, because you've been in that business. You know, you can either own the machine, or you can share in the revenue, and somebody else owns the machine and places it, and so on. So yeah, no, absolutely, no restrictions at all.
And do you have any tie-up with Amazon lockers also?
We're working on that. We're not quite there yet. And again, with Amazon, you know, it depends on the need in a specific area as well. We don't have that relationship established yet, but we're working towards that, yes.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Good questions. Yes, next question. Any other questions?
Okay, I have one more.
Yes, sir. Go ahead. Is this Terry?
Yes, sir. It's
He knows already who it is.
pertaining to replenishment and ordering. Now, does the system order, or would you have to order manually, and what's the turnaround on doing an order for merchandise?
Okay. Two good questions.
Okay.
No, two good questions. First, it is not automatic. It is manual. It's a very simple system, and we set up a check and order schedule. So each week you're checking 1/4 of the suppliers in your store that you use. Typically, you're going to have 12 to 20 suppliers, depending on the size of your store. So you'll be checking 3 to 4 to maybe 5 in any given week and ordering if necessary. The reason that we usually used to actually have a point of sale system where that was all automated for you. But here's the big blind spot that it had. You're always buying the same items over and over again. And if you think back to what we talked about earlier about having new goods in your store each and every time you order, so that each and every time your customers come in, they see something different. The POS doesn't let you do that. In fact, it kind of perpetuates buying stale merchandise, which you don't want. So it just doesn't work. And then the second part of your question was...
If it comes from the warehouse?
Travel time, delivery time.
Right.
Okay, and most often with most suppliers, that's going to be about 5 working days from the time you place the order to the time it arrives in your store. It can vary a little bit, but typically about that. And, you know, right now freight's a little tricky because there is a shortage of drivers. It's like the strangest thing ever. But I think still most of our stores are hitting that 5 to 6 day turnaround time, so still darn good.
I have one more question.
Yes,
not one more questions actually.
Okay.
So so when we order merchandise, so what is the payment window like? After how long we make a payment?
Okay, good question. At the outset, most of the suppliers are going to want payment in advance. And what we encourage our stores to do is pay by credit card. So in fact, you can get 30 days dating on your orders. So it's the best way to start. And usually after a few orders, you're going to establish credit with those suppliers, and then it's typically a net 30 at that point.
Okay. So normally what happens is like beer, wine, and all these people, they come, they deliver the merchandise, they like they invoice us, and they take direct means ACH from our account, business account, after maybe 10 days or something. But you are saying that we can pay by credit card. That's a good thing.
Yes,
That means, but will they charge a credit card transaction fee over the whatever the payment amount is?
You know, it's an interesting question. Some do, some don't, and I can't tell you why, but it's interesting. Some do charge that transaction fee, others do not. Uh, and
Okay,
that's the answer I can give to you.
because if they charge me 2.5%, then I'll lose 2.5% right there. Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. And one more question I had, I just in my mind, but I think if somebody wants to go ahead, please go ahead. When I remember, I will.
Very good. Sure.
When I recall, I will ask.
Thank you.
Yes, I have a question.
Go ahead, sir.
This
Who's
is
this?
Quentin Franklin from Tennessee.
Go ahead.
Oh, I'm trying to, okay, if the product come in damaged, you just ship it back or what?
Okay, good question. And there's a couple of different answers. If it comes in damaged and it's freight damage, those a box is crushed or it's got a hole poked in it or something like that, that's a freight claim against the carrier, against the freight company. And then you'll get recovery through them. If it's poor packing and the box looks perfect on the outside, and tomorrow morning you come in, you open it up, and you find some of the items are smashed or they bang together, maybe it's glassware or vases or something like that, that's a claim against the supplier. And most often, they're just going to give you a credit on your next order for that. It varies by supplier, but those things happen and they understand it, and it's a cost of doing business. So maybe you have a half a dozen pieces that are damaged and they cost 60 cents a piece. So it's $7.20. They're going to tell you next time you order, we're going to give you a credit of $7.20 plus whatever the freight might have been. So yeah, because they want your next business. They're not going to not credit you $7 to lose your next $500 order. So but those are the three ways that would be handled.
Okay, thank you.
So,
thank you.
I just recalled my question actually.
Yes, go ahead.
So, is your point of sale system smart enough to tell me what are the fastest selling items so that I can keep an eye on that? And can I control, like, will I get like daily reports, weekly reports, monthly reports, yearly reports, as well as can I track everything on my cell phone also? Means remotely?
Okay, I understand. And the answer is no, it's not that smart. We don't use a point of sale any longer. We converted about 2 years ago back to electronic cash registers, which will track your sales by category, but not by item. The reason we did that is because the product mix in these stores is so dynamic that what we found was our owners were spending so much time updating the data files in their point of sale system to recapture information, 60% or more of which they were never going to use because they're not going to rebuy those items. In our system, you're going to have a core group of products that constitutes about 30% or maybe 40% of the items in your store. The items that people come in and buy week in and week out: paper products, household cleaners, basic snack foods, things like that. All the other items in your store are going to be changing because they're not consumable. So you'll always want to have something new replacing something that you've had. So again, what we found was the store owners in short order ended up using those point of sales basically as a cash register. So we reverted back to a hand system for ordering. The most important information that we need and the most important information that you're going to need as a store owner is by category where your sales coming from. So the cash registers will track that for you. So you'll know at the end of the day, at the end of the week, at the end of the month, that 15% of your sales came from hardware and 12% came from health and beauty aids and so on. And in the early days of your store, you're going to be working with our merchandise manager, and they're going to be looking at those numbers with you. And as your store starts to evolve, we may see that you're doing 12% to total in hardware, and we normally expect that to be an 8% to total category. So that tells us you've got a very strong customer base for hardware. So let's start to grow that category. Let's start to add more items to that category and so on to maximize the sales there. And the reverse is also true. If we find a category in your store that's underperforming based on our typical expectations, we're going to have you send us photos of that category. We're going to look at your ordering history with you to determine that you're executing everything as you should. If you are, that's great, and we just have to accept the fact that you're not a strong store for health and beauty aids. If we find that there are items that are missing, that your order frequency is not what it should be, then we're going to help you remediate that. So that's the way we go at controlling and growing the merchandise. Now you can always choose if you want to purchase a POS system on your own, but I normally counsel against it.
So my last question for today is, so from your company there is no regulation or like topping. If I have a dollar store, I can have a Subway there, right?
I'm sorry, I didn't get that last word. I have a what there?
A Subway.
Yeah, absolutely. As long as your lease allows it. We have, again, we're not a franchise, so we have no restrictions at all in terms of what you can do in your store. The only controlling factor would be the use clause in your lease agreement.
Okay, thank you so much.
Absolutely. Other than that, no, it is yours to take in whatever direction you choose. Thank you very much. All good questions, and I appreciate them.
I have a question.
Yes, sir. Who's this?
My name is Louis from Orlando, Florida.
Okay, good. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's about the wine and beer license.
Yes.
You have to state that you can help the owner of the store to get the license. Is that correct?
We can assist you in completing the application, but you're applying for that license as an individual, and the requirements in every market, every municipality are going to be different. So it really becomes a project for you. But it's not overwhelming. Beer and wine is typically easy to get in most areas. It's when you get into spirits that it's a little more restrictive.
And also, the coolers, the wine and beer are part of the package as well?
No, they are not, but we can help you source them. And right now, there's a lot of good, gently used, good equipment available because some businesses have unfortunately fallen by the wayside. So, yeah, they're not part of the package because not everybody does them.
Right. No, what happens is here in Orlando, pretty much all of it has wine and beer.
Yeah.
And dollar store.
Yeah, and I would recommend you do that.
Right, that had to be out of our pocket, out of my pocket.
Yes, sir. But we'll help you source it for sure.
Oh, okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you. Good question. Yes, any other questions?
Yes, I have another question. I'm Guillermo in California.
Yes,
I wanted to ask you, how much, like an average revenue on the monthly, one of the store can give you, like a monthly, like a revenue, like 1,000 square foot store?
Yeah, it's a tough question, but
it is.
What?
Like an average?
Yeah, no. What I would say is that we look for locations that are going to generate, and again, this is within a range. A rural location might generate fewer sales per foot, but the rent factors are going to be much lower too. But say you're in Garden Grove. I don't know where you are. Are you in LA?
I'm in Los Angeles. Yeah.
Okay.
LA, yeah.
So
very expensive area.
Very expensive, but a very dense population too. In terms of rent, you get what you pay for. So let's say in LA, we would look for a location that could generate about $200 a square foot in annual sales as kind of a starting point. So if you had 1,000 square foot, that would be obviously $200,000 in gross sales. Your average cost of goods is going to be about, in a dollar-only store, about 54 to 55 cents. So that gives you $108,000 in gross profit. And then from that, you have to pay your expenses, your rent, and so forth. But general rule, something in
Oh,
that
okay.
range. But again, you know what we do, Guillermo, is as we identify locations and we get to the final lease
Location.
terms, before you ever sign the lease, I'm going to go through the numbers with you because now we have an actual space. We know everything there is to know about it. So I can help you do that
So
before you ever.
that will be on the monthly thing, monthly base. Would you tell me the numbers you were saying?
That was an annual.
Oh, annual. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
$200,000 a year. And just in that example, you
Yeah.
know, don't fold it in half, put it in your pocket yet, because you might do much better.
Yeah.
So, don't walk away from the table.
No, yeah,
But no,
because in the area where I live, there's a lot. I see a lot of there's Dollar Tree, there's Dollar General, there's a lot of couple stores. You know, it's like a lot of middle class people. You know, a lot of people who live in buildings. You know, like a lot of Spanish people. You know, and they do shop a lot. I see in those kind of stores. That's
oh
what I
yeah,
was
no,
asking.
absolutely. And you know, and it's funny anymore. It
Exactly.
used to be that people would say, you know, it's the lower income groups that shop in dollar stores. That's not the case at all anymore. Everybody does. In fact, you're in
Everybody does.
LA.
Yeah, true.
You're in LA. You know 99 only, right?
Yeah, 99 Dollar Tree.
Yep. You know where
Yep.
99 only's number one volume store is? It's in Beverly
No,
Hills.
where?
It's in Beverly Hills.
Oh wow.
So
Beverly Hills.
so if Jay Leno can shop there, everybody else can shop there too, I think. So
Honestly, yeah, you know what? That's true because if you go towards West LA, you know, nice areas, I still see everybody shopping there.
oh
They're
yeah.
always packed.
Yeah. Big,
And
you
you
know,
find better quality stuff over there.
yeah, and that's the thing, you know, and it's not about how much money you have or don't have. You want to get the best value for your dollar. And people are learning
That
more
is
and more
true.
that the dollar stores deliver that. They're not junk stores like maybe they were 30 years ago. It's a whole different world
Mhm.
today. And grocery stores are hurting. You know, it's funny, and I won't bore you, but about 4 or 5 years ago, the grocery stores saw that they were losing
Mhm.
so much business to the dollar stores in like key categories,
Yeah.
like health and beauty aids and housewares and so forth. So Target and a couple other grocery stores decided to put in dollar sections, and they might have put them in some of the stores in LA. I would imagine that they did. So the grocery stores like
Mhm.
Ralph's and some of those, they put dollar
Mhm.
sections in, and they had, you know, off-price shampoo, non-name brand shampoo, for example, and things like that, because they thought they'd capture some of that business. What they did was they didn't get any new customers, but what they did is the guy who was buying Head and Shoulders for $3.29 a bottle started buying the dollar bottle of the no-name, so they actually lost money. So they they undid that very quickly. I think it was about a 6-month experiment. They said, hey, wait a minute, they're still going to the dollar stores. We can't beat them. So
That's true.
interesting
That's
stuff.
true.
But
Yeah.
good question. I
Yeah.
appreciate it.
Thank you for. All right. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Look forward to working with you. So I
Hi,
was saying,
I have a
yeah, go ahead.
question.
Go right ahead.
Hi, my name is Salim. I'm from Austin, Texas.
Okay.
And my question is, with the package, I understand the package you said between 30 to 79, depending what you want to open and depending on the square footage, right?
Yeah, they start at
But,
79.9.
okay. So my question is, what does that package cover? And do I get any surprises after the package? Like, do you exceed that amount or?
Okay, good question. Um, I try not to surprise you. No, no. Here's what I can tell you. The package includes everything inside the four walls of the store, and I'll run through them with you very quick. It's a good question. I really didn't touch on it earlier, so I appreciate that. Your package includes all the fixtures, all the store equipment, uniforms, all the inventory, um, all the site location work, all the leasing work, all the training, access to the supplier network, interior store signs, an allowance towards the cost of your outdoor sign, the cash registers. Literally everything inside the four walls of the store is included in that package, plus all the services that we've talked about. So there are no surprises.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Excellent question. Thanks, because I didn't go through that. So
I have a question.
yes, go ahead, sir.
Yes, I'm Louis again with Orlando.
Yes, go ahead, sir.
Just a quick question. The outside sign of the store, the name of the store that goes outside, is also part of the package. Because you have to say everything inside the store.
Yes. Okay, and a good question. In your package, there is also an allowance towards the cost of the outdoor sign. It typically does not cover all of the cost of the sign, um, and it's hard for us to do that because each store's name is going to vary based on what they choose, and a longer name is going to have obviously more letters and it's going to cost more. A shorter name is going to cost less. So we include several $1,000s in the package towards the cost of the outdoor sign. So when you determine the sign company that you want to use, we send that money right back to you or to the sign company for you. Um, but it does vary, but we can't cover all the costs of the sign. And keep in mind too, sometimes uh, the type of sign that the landlord requires in a given area is going to vary. You know, if you have a landlord that will allow you to have a box sign with just a plexiglass face and backlit, the allowance probably covers all or virtually all of that. If you have to have individual channel lit letters, uh, sign is going to be more costly, so it'll cover a portion of it. But that's how we go at that. Our goal is to make that money goes right back to you, obviously, but we do that to make sure that everybody does put up a sign, because you'd be surprised. From time to time, we may have individuals that decide not to put up a sign or wait to put up a sign. It's the worst thing that you can do. Uh, as a guy said one time, a business with no sign is going to be a sign of no business, and it's true.
Exactly.
That it's the least expensive investment that you can make to grow your business is to let people know you're there.
That's true. All right, thank you.
Thank you very much. Excellent question. Yes, any other questions? I want to put in
Hello?
very quickly. Yeah, let me just share something very quickly, and then we'll get right back to your question.
Mm.
I apologize, and I should have done this
No, no
30
problem.
minutes ago. I just want to make sure that you know if anyone on the call tonight does decide they want to go forward, you can call your rep in the morning or whenever you're ready. Uh, you can make the application deposit and start the process. If you have questions, of course, call your rep. You can always call me. Again, my name's John LaFronz, and I'll give you my number. I believe it was in the email, but I'll give it to you if you want to jot it down. My direct line is 702-637-3389, and I'm happy to talk to anyone anytime. And my email is john, LaFronz, at DRSS, that's David Robert Sam mail.com. You can always email me as well. Call me or email me, and I'll get right back with you. So I just wanted to get that out because I didn't do it earlier, and I apologize. So yes, you had a question.
Yes, so I first want to, your phone number is 702-637-3389. That's your direct line?
Yes, 3389, correct.
3389. I just want to make sure. Yeah, which is Guillermo in California. I mean, last question I had, I wanted to ask you, the full amount of $70-something thousand or $84,000 that we pay, is that going to cover from the beginning when we start applying for the funds all the way through until we open the store?
Yes.
That what?
That's a total
That's
cost
what the
of
fees for.
pack, yeah, with everything.
The consulting. Oh, okay. And after that, do we still get any support after we open the store from you guys?
Absolutely. Once you're open, that's really where our work kind of starts. You might have missed that part of the call, but we assign our trainer stays.
Actually, I came in late. Sorry.
No, it's okay.
I came in late to the meeting.
No worries. No, we assign a trainer that's going to do your initial training. She's going to stay in regular contact with you almost daily for the first 3 to 4 months after you're open, helping you write replacement orders, get ready for all the seasons and holidays and so on. After that first 3 to 4 months, if we feel and you feel that you've kind of got your arms around the business and things are going as they should, then what we do is move your store to a long-term coordinator's desk, and that person continues to provide that same support. And keep in mind, too, you're getting emails from us each and every week on new products, new suppliers that you may want to add to your store, all with the goal of helping you grow your business. But no, we never go away. That support is always available to you.
Oh, okay. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate it, John.
Thank you. And if you have more questions, call me. Don't hesitate.
Yeah, I have your number. Yeah, I decided to move forward with my partner. We give you a call so we can start.
You let us know. And more questions, happy to go through them with you.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you for your time this evening. Any other questions?
Yes, this is Lori Brown from Atlanta again.
Yes.
If we decided to move forward tomorrow after talking to you tomorrow. Do you think it's possible that a store could be open by the holidays?
I think it's very possible, Lori. The key is to get started. Um, the financing process, if you need to get some funding, it'll take a couple of weeks, maybe a little bit less. And then we'll jump right into site location. We're geared up to start going through locations very quickly. Yeah, you know, uh, I think it's extremely possible, and I really want to focus on that because, as I mentioned at the outset of the evening, right now is the time. There's never a bad time to get into our business, but if you can open for the holidays, it's a huge advantage. So yeah, let's see if we can get that done.
Okay, thank you.
Great. Thank you, Lori, again for your time this evening and your questions.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? Well, yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yes, hello.
Go ahead. Who's this?
This is Katrina from California.
Okay, go ahead, Katrina.
Now, I know you said that everything inside the store is included in the starter package.
Yes.
How about the fees for the assigned trainer? Is those fees also included in that package?
The fees for the what? I'm sorry, Katrina?
For the assigned trainer that you assigned that helps us with 90 to 120 days after opening?
Oh, absolutely. It's all included.
Okay.
Absolutely, yeah. What I was talking about when I said inside the store is the equipment and so forth. But all the services that we talked about are all included. Site, leasing, training, all of that.
And also, once we're approved for our loan amount, however much that may be, when are we required to start payments? I know it's a loan, so it has to be paid back. When is that we're required to start making payments on that?
Normally it starts once you actually take the funding. And you wouldn't take the funding until we find a location and the lease is negotiated to your satisfaction. At that point, or a week or two before that, when everything's finalizing, that's when you would want to initiate the funding. You'll get like a pre-qualification, which allows us to get you into real estate because you know what size we're looking for, but you're not actually taking the funds until you're ready to actually open a store.
And also, I know that you guys say that you guys like to look for different locations, but are we as the main controller, are we allowed to maybe give you guys some ideas of where we would like our store to be?
Oh, absolutely.
Our home, maybe?
Absolutely. In fact, we encourage that. You're going to tell us when we start to work in real estate, and maybe I didn't make this clear, you're going to tell us where you want the store to be. And say, for example, you're in Garden Grove, and I don't know where you are, but if you're in Garden Grove, you're going to say, I'm looking at Fallbrook. I'm going to look at these areas where I'm willing to look for my store. So that's where we're going to focus. But along with that, if you see a location that you see that looks interesting to you, just give that information to your site locator. She's going to pull all the information and see if it's viable. And of course, we're going to look at all of that because you live there. You know things right off the bat that we may not know for sure. So, yeah, we're working together on that. So. Any other questions?
Yes, I have a question.
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, what about the insurance?
Okay, good question. The amount of insurance that you're going to need to carry is going to vary by landlord to a degree, and they're going to tell you in your draft lease agreement what type of coverage you need to have. And then in terms of getting that insurance, most often, most clients will go to whoever does their personal insurance, their homeowners or their car insurance, get a quote from them, and it's usually a good idea, like anything else, to get 2 or 3 quotes. Sometimes you may find that your insurance agent does not do commercial insurance, but he can always, in virtually every case, refer you to somebody he knows that does to get those quotes.
All right, thank you.
You bet. Good question. Thank you. Any other questions? Well, with that, I want to thank everybody for their time this evening. I know it was kind of a long process, and I appreciate everybody listening to the first part, and more importantly, contributing with questions of the second part. That's always the best part of the evening. This will be recorded. It is being recorded, and early next week you will get a copy of it in an email. So if you missed a portion of it, it will all be there available to you. One last reminder, if you do decide to go forward and you talk to your rep and get your application and deposit in by next Wednesday, you can take advantage of that $2,000 in free merchandise when you open your store. And one last time, I want to thank everybody for their time this evening. I know everybody's busy and it's late for some of us. So, again, thank you for your time. Thank you for your attention. Thank you for your questions. And I look forward to having the opportunity to work with a good number of you. So, more questions tomorrow, give me a call. Don't hesitate. And thank you again for your time. Have a good evening.
DollarStoreServices.com